Okay, so today we're going to look at squares and cubes. That's square numbers and cube numbers. First things first, let's look at a square. So this square, maybe not perfectly drawn, but try my best, has a length of 3. Let's call it 3 centimeters if you want, or just 3 units. It also, because it's a square, it has the same width. Okay. So how many squares are contained within this squares of 1 unit by 1 unit? Well, if you know your area formulas, you know area is length times width, so 3 times 3, so it's 9. So 3 squared is 9. Okay. What about cubes? So if I were to put another dimension, a third dimension, on this shape, what happens then? So if I go back, and we form a cube, and all these are also 3 by 3s. So now I want to find out how many cubes are in this shape. Well, that's maybe not as easy. I notice 9 on this front row, and then there's another row of 9, and then there's another row of 9. So those 3 9s together, 9 plus 9 is 18, plus 9 is 27. So I know there's 27 cubes. Now, those people who know about volumes know that if I just multiplied the length by the width by the height, I would have got 27. So in other words, 3 times 3 times 3 is 27. And 3 times 3 times 3 is 3 to the power of 3. So 3 cubes is 27. Now it's difficult to go further than that with these diagrams because of course fourth dimension is quite difficult to draw on a two-dimensional plane. But we don't need to know that. But you've probably come across square numbers and cube numbers before. Now have you come across square roots and cube roots? So the square root of a number, so let's pick 16, is what? Well, the square root of a number is the number that would multiply by itself to give the number underneath the square root. So you're trying to think of what number multiplied by what number gives 16. So I think what number, well 2 times 8 gives 16, doesn't it? But that's not the same number, it has to be the same number. So the only thing is 4 times 4. So the square root of 16 is 4. What number by itself gives 16? So that means the square root of 9 gives 3. Now you might need to practice making the square root symbol if you haven't done it before. What then is the cube root? So the cube root of 8. What's the cube root of 8? So what does it translate as? What number multiplied by itself 3 times gives 8? So think of what number multiplied by itself 3 times gives 8. Now, I think 2. Has to be the same number, because I know 2 cubed gives 8, so the cube root is the opposite way around. So the cube root of 8 is 2. So it's the opposite way around to cubing. You've got to think, now we have the answer underneath the cube, and we have to figure out what number by itself 3 times, that's what the little 3 is about, gives the number underneath the cube root symbol. Okay. So these numbers are, well, the ones we're going to deal with are pretty known. So the lists of square numbers, well, what's the first square number? Well, 1 times 1 would be 1 squared, which is 1. 2 times 2 is 2 squared, which is 4. 3 times 3 is 3 squared. So you see that my little 2 is my index or exponent or power. 3 squared, 3 times 3 is 9. Next one you probably already have thought of. 4 times 4, 4 squared is 16. And so on. 5 squared, 25. 6 squared, 36. 7 squared, 49. And so on. Cube numbers, we got to do the same pattern. 1 cubed, 1 times 1 times 1, 1 cubed is, well, 1, still 1. Alright, that's the same. 2 times 2 times 2 is 2 with a small 3. 2 cubed, 2 times 2 is 4, times 2, 8. 3, well, we just did it up there. 3 times 3 times 3, 3 cubed, 27. 4. So that's going to be 4 times 4 is 16 times 4, 64. And so on. So these are getting bigger, faster. Well, of course they are. There's an extra multiplier here every term. Extra multiplier. Now you could have just multiplied these numbers by the same number again. So 2 times 2 is 4, times 2 gives 8, and actually you could keep doing that to find 2 to the power 4, etc. So they're all just patterns. All just patterns. Okay, so there's square numbers and square roots are the opposites. So the square root of 64, then we know is 4. Or the cube root of 64 is 4. The square root of 9 is 3. The square root of 16 is 4. So there's square numbers, cube numbers. Okay, good luck with the questions.